Good evening, everyone. This is Pastor C. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I'm Pastor C. I'm a breakthrough transformational coach, and I help high functioning men and women to break out of negative cycles and move into positive seasons of their life. And I'm so happy to have you here with me on tonight as I travel back in history, leading up to my birthday, April the 27th. You are watching day 14 of 27 Days of Fire, the road to 67. And today I'm going to share another memory from my past. And this particular memory is actually when I was in foster care. So, as I told you all before, that I'm not going in order with my memories. I'm pretty much just praying and asking the Lord to give me what memories to share. And I have to just say this, that, early in my life, I went through some really rough spots, even in college, some very rough spots, and so I'm not trying to be not trying to cloak anything, but I realize that there are some things that are just meant to keep locked, but there are other things that God has allowed me to live through. And the reason why I survived is because there's someone that needs to hear my story. And so I'm just grateful to be here and to share another memory on tonight. And so this one that I'm going to share tonight is very deep for me. You see, this memory again was when I was in foster care. And there was a time in my life when I came to realization about me, my character, that I really didn't like. I mean, I realized that I was trying to buy love, not with money, so to speak, but with how I showed up. I would overgive, overextend, over compliment, over show up, over sacrifice. I was always doing more, and I was hoping that it would prove something, hoping that it would prove that I was worthy of the relationships that I was trying to forge or to maintain, in order to keep them. And I really didn't realize what I was doing until God opened my eyes one day, um, when I was going through a test and a trial, and I noticed it about myself. And I asked him, what this was, and he showed it to me. So, at this time of this memory, I was in college. I was a born again Christian, on fire for God, spending time with him consistently, seeking him in my quiet time. And when he showed me what I was doing, I didn't like it, because now I had to face something that was hidden deep within my character. So I went into prayer and I asked God to show me where this specific thing came from. And I don't know about you, but I have learned that when you ask God to show you something, He will show it to you, sometimes right away and sometimes later, but it's always when you can handle it. But in that moment, I saw myself. God began to give me a vision of myself, not as I was then, on that college campus, but as a little girl. I saw myself being taken by my birth mother from my grandmother's house, my birth grandmother's, my father's mother's house, and I was still in foster care, in my grandmother's care. But my grandmother's boyfriend didn't like children, so guess what? I had to go. And I remember getting in a cab with her, going to a house I had never seen before, walking up the steps, and a young girl opened the front door. I would find out later that that young girl was actually my birth sister. She had been adopted by the woman who lived there. So we had the same mother. I had never met her before. But anyway, we walked into the house, and I can still remember the smell and the feeling in that breezeway, because in that houses, we lived in houses that were attached, and there were like a breezeway, a little, you open the door and you come in, there's be like a little hallway, and then there'll be another door to go into the main house. But I remember feeling the feeling that I had in the breezeway and everything about that moment. And my mother, after we opened the door and stood in the breezeway, she told me to stay right there, while she went into the next room. So I stood there. She opened the other door, closed it behind her, and I was standing there in that breezeway by myself, waiting for her to come back. And when she came back, she said, "This is going to be your new home for a while." And then she said, "I'll be back soon to get you." Now, if you can imagine, being moved around, all the time from my aunt to a cousin, now to my grandmother, and now here in a place I've never been before, interacting with people I've never known before. And she told me she would be back soon to get me. You know, I remember crying and I remember running after her. It was only a few steps to get to her, but it felt like miles. I was pleading and begging her, not to leave me. And she gently pushed me back and said again, "I'll be back soon." And then she left. In that moment, something entered my life. And I didn't know what it was then. I didn't have the words for it. But when I asked God about it, I was on the College of West Virginia University, and God said to me that was rejection. And that's when abandonment became my norm. And a new chapter began that day as a little girl, one that included abuse, confusion, and a deep question inside of me. Why wasn't I enough for her to keep me? And what I didn't realize was that little girl grew up to become me that was praying there in the living room on that campus. That woman had carried that question with her for all of her life. So now in my adult life, was found overgiving, overdoing, overextending, trying to answer a question that was never meant to be answered by people. Wow. And here is the fire in that moment. This is what the fire revealed. When you don't feel chosen, you will exhaust yourself trying to be accepted. You'll start overgiving, doing more than is required, saying yes when your spirit is saying no, showing up even when you're empty, trying to prove I'm worthy, I'm worthy, I'm worth keeping. You'll overextend in relationships, hold on longer than you should, and excuse things you shouldn't excuse, and ignore what you know doesn't feel right. Because deep down, you're not responding to the moment. No, you're responding to a memory, a moment where you felt left, a moment where you felt unseen, maybe a moment where you question your value. And now everything you do is trying to make sure that feeling never happens again. So you perform instead of resting in who you are. You give not from overflow, but from a place of fear. You love, but with anxiety attached to it. And hear me, that kind of love will wear you out because you're trying to earn something that should be freely received. But the truth is, you were never meant to convince people to choose you. God already did. And until you settle that in your heart, you will keep exhausting yourself, trying to be enough for people who were never meant to define your worth. I was trying to earn what God had already given me, a four-letter word: love, Love. And hear me, my family, my friends, cycle breakers. This is real because some of you are doing the same thing: overgiving, overextending, overproving, trying to secure something that was broken a long time ago. But you cannot heal by performing. Take it from me. You can't do it. And Jeremiah 29:11, my scripture, and yours too, probably by now, it still stands because even in that moment, when my mother walked out and left me saying she would be back, now she came back at different times to visit. But because of her lifestyle and because of her record, she was not allowed to keep me. And that's something I found out a long time ago. She didn't have the skills. I've forgiven her. She didn't have the skills. She didn't have the life, and the things that she had been through prevented her from being the mother that we needed because I had other sisters. You know, Even in that, her leaving me, God still had a plan for me. Even when I felt left, God never left me. In fact, He told me in His word that when your mother and your father forsake you, then I will lift you up. And I held on to that scripture that day because in that moment, I felt that void like someone had shot me with a shotgun and it just left a big hole in my heart. Not because not because I didn't realize that I was in foster care, but I didn't remember that moment. But when God brought it back to me, it's like everything rushed back to me fresh. But I submitted myself to God and I asked God, Lord, replace this void. Replace this void with more of you. And I had to learn that my worth was never based on who stayed or who left. It was based on who called me, and it was Jesus. So let me ask you today, where in your life are you trying to earn something that God has already given you? Whew, this was a deep one, but this is real. It is so real. And I have to add that, when if God has to take you back down memory lane, don't just have the memory. Stay in his presence and ask God to heal you. Ask God to walk back into that moment with you so that he can show you his presence, that it was there. But it was something that I had to go through, not just for me, but because there are so many people that have those types of wounds, the abandonment, the rejection, the abuse, all the things that the enemy planted in their life, imprinted in their life when they were little, and it became a part of them and they carried into their adulthood. And if that's you tonight, ask God to show you the root of those things, where it showed up, and then let him walk you into healing, walk you back, show you where it was revealed, and then walk you into his presence so you can receive your healing. He did it for me. He did it. I can honestly say I have forgiven my birth mother. And I realized, in my mature state, when God showed me that she had to leave me. And even though the road was rough for me, I've learned, I've grown through all the bad situations. I've learned, I've grown. And I think that's why I'm such a compassionate person. I think that's why I'm such a loving person, is because I know what it's like to be left. I know what it's like to not be seen. I know what it's like to be rejected or abandoned. And I don't want to do that to anybody else with my knowledge. So, listen, if this spoke to you, I want you to drop some fire in the comments because the fire will reveal this too. You don't have to earn love, you're already chosen. So, look, this has been day 14 of 27 days of fire, the road to 67. And before I close tonight, I want to share with you that I have dropped in the show notes the link to the newest book release that I am a part of, and it's called Dear Little Girl in Me. Now, this book is written by 14 other authors, including myself. It's an anthology, and each one of us are sharing a chapter in the book where we had to recognize that dear little girl in us that wasn't healed. And we had to write a letter to that dear little girl and even share our stories of the things that happened to us. And so this book is going to be launched in New York, my birthday. We'll be traveling on my birthday to New York on the 28th. It's going to be launched in New York City. We'll be there at, I think, about 1 o'clock at the billboard for this book. We'll be on we'll be doing a tour with the book, and it's going to bless some people, I know. And so I just would like to ask you to click on the link in the show notes, and you'll see the link to the book and where you can pre-order the book. And if you want to pre-order it, I'm going to bring those books back with me on the 28th. I will make sure I personally sign it to you and have it mailed right out to you. So please support. Please support the ministry of Pastor C, and because no, it's going to bless you. And this book is under Dr. Nikki Ziegler of the Herpreneur Network, and she is a visibility coach. And believe me, if you're looking for a place to link up, to be more visible, in your business, in your calling, the things that God has put in your hands, and you need the visibility for what you're doing, Dr. Nikki Ziegler is that person. So listen, that's all I have to say on tonight. God bless you. Go back and look at the video. I believe this is really going to minister to somebody tonight, because there is a little girl or a little boy inside of you that needs to be healed, needs to be recognized for the hurts and the pains that it's gone through, so that you can realize that there are some things that you're carrying in your adulthood that came from that hurt that was imprinted in your life. So I hope this blessed you. And as I close, I just want you to remember one thing. You were never meant to prove your worth. You were always meant to receive Christ's love. So God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow for day 15 of 27 Days of Fire, the road to 67. God bless you all. Bye-bye.